Hello everybody and welcome back to Typical City. Even though we won that Super Cup and it was a great win, a historic win for Manchester City, I think most City fans would actually agree that that particular performance was a little bit lacklustre, let's say. And you accompany that with Newcastle's demolishing of Aston Villa, and this particular fixture on Saturday, 8 o'clock kickoff. I will be doing a watch along, by the way. It's a bit of a nerve-wracking fixture. I'm not too confident going into this one, and I think Newcastle will be oozing confidence. But history is very much on our side. But you can't live on history. You can't do that. Just ask Liverpool and United fans how they are living off their history, because their future doesn't look so good, does it? But history is very much on City's side in this particular fixture. 18 out of the last Premier League games at the Etihad against Newcastle, they haven't won a single one of them. In fact, they've lost 16 of them, drawing 2. In fact, Newcastle have only won 1 out of the last 31 Premier League games against Manchester City, and that was a 2-1 loss at St James's Park in 2019. And you accompany that with the fact that Newcastle haven't won their opening 2 games in a Premier League campaign since 1997. The history is very much in City's favour, but history means nothing. It means nothing. I've already told you who to relate that to, those Liverpool fans and United fans. They go on about history. It means nothing. Moving forward, let's start with Newcastle, because they're the team that I think deserve a little bit of focus, considering their obliteration of Aston Villa. The firepower that they've got now is looking pretty tasty. And you accompany that with the Tonali signing behind him. He was sublime. He was so good. He was just drifting all over that pitch at St James's Park against Aston Villa. And the performance that he put in for a debut performance as well was more than noteworthy. He was ghosting into positions that were he was just gliding all over that pitch. He was dictating the play. He was involved in pretty much all of their goals in some way, in some capacity. Tonali is someone we need to keep an eye on. You look at their midfield 3, you've got Joe Linton, Guimaraes and Tonali. That's scary. That's a scary midfield. Very powerful and technically able at the same time. And then you accompany that with their front 3, Almiron, Harvey Barnes or Gordon and Isaac up front. That front 6 is dangerous. I do think we can get at them at the back, though. At the back is where I think Newcastle have weaknesses. Dan Burn, that big lump at left back, I think we can get through him. I think that is the channel we need to focus on. Approach Dan Burn, get Bernardo Silva on Dan Burn, and I think we can take them to the cleaners to an extent. You know, we've just got to stop that front 6, and that's no easy task. The confidence that they'll have coming off that 5-1 win against Aston Villa was incredible. I think there was statistically against Villa, it was actually quite an even game. Newcastle were just clinical, and that's what I'm talking about, firepower. And then you talk about not just firepower that was on the pitch with Anthony Gordon, Isaac and Almiron, but they bring off Gordon and Isaac and bring on Harvey Barnes and Callum Wilson, and they start scoring goals, 1 each and an assist for Harvey Barnes as well. I actually think, let's have a look, this is my predicted Newcastle starting 11, and that is the one player that I think they might swap. It's pretty much a like for like in terms of starting 11, because why wouldn't you go for pretty much like for like, considering you just won 5-1? Those players probably deserve a start, but considering Harvey Barnes' impact when he came on, he's the only player that I've gone for that I think Eddie Howe might have an eye on swapping Gordon out and bringing Harvey Barnes in, considering that impact that he had. But it's Nick Pope in goal I've gone for. Trippier, you've got to watch out for him. His set pieces, he scored a worldie of a free kick at St James's Park against City last season in that 3-3 draw. Shah and Botman, 2 solid centre-backs, and Shah, they've got goals in them two as well. Shah in particular, he can score goals, you know, so we've got to watch out for set pieces as well. The size of this team. Very rarely have I said City have got a big side, but we now have a big side ourselves. So this is 2 giant sides going against each other, and 2 very technically able sides at the same time. I think this is going to be an incredible game. I really do. Dan Burn, huge guy, but his speed is the issue for me, and the fact his agility, you know, is he nimble enough to stop Bernardo Silva, Phil Foden, Alvarez? You know, these types of players should be targeting Dan Burn, running in between his legs and turning him inside out and giving him some spaghetti legs. But in the middle, Joe Linton, Bruno Guimaraes and Tonali, I think that's a given. Joe Linton, by the way, Eddie Howe needs huge credit. I think he got credit at the time, but it's kind of forgotten about now that Joe Linton was signed as a centre forward, an awful looking centre forward. He couldn't hit a barn door to save his life. Eddie Howe, light bulb moment, bing, light bulb goes off and he goes, Joe Linton, you're technically able, you're going to drop into midfield. And what a masterstroke that was from Eddie Howe. An incredible move, and he looks right at home, and he looks a very, very more than able centre midfielder that, a beast of a midfielder. I really rate Joe Linton. So he's one to watch out for. Harvey Barnes, Isaac, who's just got a taste for goals right now. You know, in terms of his finishing ability, he looked absolutely potent. So it looked like a lethal he was against Aston Villa. And Almiron, again, another player that last season he tore up a few trees and made Jack Grealish eat his words. Let's be honest, because Jack Grealish's performances last season in the first half of the season were nothing compared to Almiron's first half of the season. He definitely stepped up his game, Jack Grealish, in the second half of the season, but Almiron, he's been a lot more consistent, put it that way. Ask yourself this question right now: if you had a choice, would you play, if Almiron played for City, let's say, who would you play in Jack Grealish's position, Jack Grealish or Almiron? I think I'd go for Almiron, to be honest, if I had the choice. And I bet you if you give Pep Guardiola that same choice, you know, I wouldn't be surprised if he went for Almiron as well, because just consistency. You know, Jack Grealish is hot and cold at the minute. But I think that team is that front six. That's the front six you've got to watch out for. But against Aston Villa, I think there was chances for Villa, you know. The fact that Mings went off injured early, I think that disrupted the whole flow of Aston Villa's game. They got their equaliser, then Mings goes down. That's a serious injury. Their potential rock, he's got a mistake in him, Mings, don't get me wrong, but in terms of their solid rock that they need at the back, Mings is one of them. Pau Torres comes on and he has a mare. He has a mare against Isaac. So I think he single-handedly gifted Isaac a couple of those goals, the fourth and the fifth as well. The third was a mistake as well, pissing about with it in the penalty area. Isaac wins the ball back. A lovely little chip. The finish is undoubtedly quality, like amazing finish, but he was gifted the opportunity to even have that chance. So I think the 5-1 was slightly flattering. If you look at the statistics of the two teams, Villa versus Newcastle, they were quite even. It was quite an even game. Newcastle were just clinical, but their back line, I think we can get at them. But that's enough about Newcastle. I think that's a team to worry about to an extent. Are they going to challenge? I'm not too sure. But let's have a look at City. We've just got to improve on that in performance and just cut out the mistakes that showed their ugly heads in that Sevilla game. The simple 10-yard, 15-yard passes, square, across the goal. We've got to cut that out. We can't. Kyle Walker, Akanji, Ake, even Gvardiol at times, they were all four at the back. We're giving the ball away too often, and very, very simple balls as well. Just really simple stuff. Schoolboy errors. We need to cut that stuff out. But in terms of the starting 11, I've gone for Edison at the back, Kyle Walker at right back. I'm hoping he can step up, but I think we're going to need him, depending on if he's going against Harvey Barnes or Gordon. Both have speed. Both Gordon and Barnes have speed, and we might need to nullify that with Kyle Walker. I've swapped out the two centre-backs considering their performance. Ake not so bad against Sevilla, but I thought Akanji had a bit of a mare against Sevilla. I've gone for Stones and Diaz, which really solidifies that defence and makes me feel a little bit more confident, a little bit more assured at the back. But I've maintained Gvardiol at left back as well. I hope he can pin down that position and make it his own. I think he's the one player now that can do that inverted role, rather than we've often had a right-sided player playing inverted and drifting into that central midfield position, whether it be Rico Lewis or John Stones, who drifted out right back and then defensive midfield. I think if we keep John Stones as an out-and-out centre-back and let Gvardiol on the opposite side of the pitch play at left-back when we've not got the ball, and when we do have the ball, he can push forward and drift into the middle a little bit more and sit alongside Rodri potentially. Rodri is the one who's ahead of him. Who else, really? You can't have Calvin Phillips in a game like this. Rodri, definitely. This is where it starts to get interesting, and where I think most people have no idea what Pep Guardiola is going to do. This is my Guardiola prediction. What I want is different than this 11. I don't actually want Grealish to be starting on the left. I don't think he did enough against Sevilla to warrant a start against. And maybe the resting is a factor. The fact that this game is being played on 8 o'clock Saturday night after we played Saturday night in Greece on Wednesday is a joke. Pep Guardiola, they've called him whinging about it. Fuck off, man. He's not whinging. He's absolutely spot on. Why couldn't this game have been played Sunday morning, Sunday lunchtime? Sleep at this level is so valuable. One night's extra sleep, the muscles will recover, everyone will be back to pretty much full fitness from a Wednesday night game. But no, the Premier League throwing us in the deep end, making it life as difficult for us as possible. Once again, playing on a Saturday night. Oh, thanks for the extra couple of hours, because that makes all the difference. Either playing 3 o'clock or 5 o'clock on a Saturday. Oh, we'll give you an extra couple hours and you can play 8 o'clock instead. That means nothing. It means nothing. The difference in fatigue will be non-existent. Sunday would be huge. Or an extra night's sleep is huge. It's a joke. It really is to be playing at this time. So Newcastle definitely have the fitness advantage going into this game. Who's going to play as a result of who played fitness-wise against Sevilla? I have gone for Grealish on the left. Foden and Alvarez as the two in the middle. You want to see Phil Foden link up with Grealish better than he did against Sevilla. I think that was just a disjointed performance when those two combined. I think Foden actually played okay against Sevilla. Kovacic has been harshly dropped in this. I thought he was okay again. He was breaking the lines reasonably well in that last 20 minutes against Sevilla. Phil Foden was okay. I just want to see him link up. If it was my choice, I would drop Grealish, put Foden in Grealish's position out on the left and play Kovacic in the middle alongside Alvarez. Alvarez came on and gets 6 minutes against Sevilla, which may be an indication that he's probably going to play against Newcastle. Haaland's up top just to get those assurance of goals should any chance drop at his feet. You likely think it's going to go in the back of the net. Bernardo Silva is back, you think, because apparently it was an illness why he was out. 50-50 apparently. I think the illness is probably worn off by now. You like to think so. Other than Kevin De Bruyne's injury, we've got pretty much a full fit squad. Only minor doubt is Bernardo Silva, but that's my starting 11. I think that's enough to beat Newcastle on paper, but you play like you did against Sevilla, we're in trouble. We're in trouble because there was too many mistakes. I think going forward, we need to have a bit more creativity. Are Newcastle going to have a good enough shape to stop us? Because Sevilla's shape was brilliant. They allowed us to, it was very, very narrow, a very thin, narrow block, allowing us to have the ball out wide. And if that's the case, we've got to switch it quicker. We've got to move that ball quicker, increase the tempo. And if you are going to use your wide players, when the ball gets to Grealish, he's got to do something more with it. Same for Bernardo Silva or whoever is on that right-hand side. You've got to move the ball quicker. Make use of the space out wide. Try and get to the byline to get behind Newcastle's defence if they are going to play a narrow block. Dan Burn is the one for me. You put Bernardo Silva against Dan Burn, little versus large. I think he can turn him inside out. I really do. He's just got to be a little bit more assertive with the ball. Take on Dan Burn. Challenge him. Make him make a decision because I think he can be rash. I think he can be rash and he's slow. He's a big slug lump of a defender that if he gets hold of you, you're not getting off him. He's got you. You know what I mean? But if you can use the ball and manipulate his movement, you can make the use of the space around him. And I think Dan Burn is their weakness, the one player that we should be targeting. And maybe double up on him. Send Alvarez and Bernardo Silva out wide to double team against Dan Burn. I think that's where we'll get in, coming down that right-hand side and whipping it into Haaland. Hopefully. But this would be a huge statement from City. If we were to go and win this game, that would be a huge statement because that's Burnley win, Sevilla winning a cup, and then Newcastle who've just won 5-1. You know, that's a big, big statement to really kill the spirits of Newcastle and everyone else who's watching, because I think a lot of the Premier League teams are thinking that's going to be tough for City. They're going to be quietly, well, probably not even quietly, very openly hoping that City are going to drop points against Newcastle, and the likeliness is reasonable. You know, it's not that unlikely that we will draw or even lose this game. Personally, my prediction is 3-1 City. I think if we can get an early lead and dictate the play, Newcastle might shrink, go into their shells. But if we let them go 1-0 up, I think first goal wins this game. I really do. I think the confidence that they'll have, if they went 1-0 up at the Etihad, they'll play at the back and hit us on the counter, and they've got the speed to do that as well. So we have to watch out. Keep it strong and steady in the first 5-10 minutes, and I think we can take control of the game. Hopefully, home advantage, first home game of the season as well, which is exciting. I will be doing a live watch-along this Saturday, 8 o'clock, so come and join me for that. It's been really fun so far doing the watch-alongs this season, and this will hopefully be exactly the same. Join me if you can. It will be great. Get your comments in, get your predictions in. I've gone for 3-1 City.
Get your predictions in the comments below. I'd love to hear them. Like and subscribe. Typical City is the channel, and I'll see you in the next one.
This is Typical City now, holding up silverware.